Chapter 1 gives us both the geographical setting of the novel and the historical context of the novel. It's easiest to think of chapter 1 as 4 natural geographic locations and 4 historical groups, and that gives a pretty good outline or structure of the chapter. Now, for any novel in the world, any important piece of literature, of course, knowing the setting, understand the setting and the context are important. But it's even more so for John Steinbeck. Explicitly in some of his letters from his very first novels, he says to a friend and early reader of his novels that he wants to explore the intimate connection that people have with each other, the individual and the group, the one and the many, and the relation of individual and group to the natural world. In fact, the beginning of the novel Tortilla Flat, he talks about our main character, his friends in the house, and he almost describes them in a Trinitarian terms. They're 1 and 3 and 3 and 1 together. In another novel, there's a tree on the main character's property that takes almost a supernatural relation to the man himself. And so for Steinbeck, there is an intimate connection between individual characters, each other, and the world they inhabit. So 4 natural elements that he talks about as far as the geographical setting, which is the Salinas Valley. Well, the first thing he talks about is the rain and the river. And all of these elements, these geographical elements, are going to hint at or point to the main theme of the novel about the struggle between good and evil. Even the natural world east of Eden is involved in this same struggle, or at least points to this same struggle. Well, what do I mean? Well, number 1, about the naturalistic elements, he talks about the rain and the rivers. Well, obviously cattle and humans need water to live, and yet he talks about the different seasons. There's not enough rain and the rivers flow underground, and other seasons there's too much rain and the rivers are destructive. So even in the rain and even in the rivers, there is a never-ending cycle, a never-ending tension between good and evil. The very thing that gives life or makes life possible, water, also there's either too much of it or too little of it. So it's giving life, but it's also taking life. Number 2, after the river and the rain, are the mountains. He said the mountains to the west of the Salinas Valley, Santa Lucia, are a certain way, and the Gabilan Mountains are a certain way. One offers warmth and birth and motherly love, and one is full of terror. The Santa Lucias to the west of the Salinas Valley are terrifying to Steinbeck, while on the other side of the valley there is the good. There's the Able Mountains and the Cane Mountains. The evil mountains, the good. The morning, birth, beauty mountains, and the evening, death mountains. So the rain and the rivers give our tension between good and evil, as do our 2 mountains between good and evil. Number 3, he talks about the soil. The soil is fruitful in some places where one of our main characters is going to live, where it is Edenic, and the soil is almost worthless in other places where some of our main characters will live. In the foothills, nothing can grow there. And so the soil is good in some places and it's evil in other places. Then he talks about flowers and flower arranging, and he talks about California poppies and lupins, and he notes that the beauty is in the contrast. And I'm probably overreading here a little bit, but you see even in the beautiful flowers, darkness versus light, and light is even more pronounced and more beautiful when it is contrasted with the darkness. So for the natural world that the novel takes place in, the natural world that symbolizes the main struggle of the novel, you have number 1, the rain and the rivers. Number 2, the opposing feeling mountains. Number 3, the soils that either are rich and beautiful or are full of thorns and thistles and death and drought. Then fourthly, you have the flowers. You have the dark flowers of darkness and the flowers of light. And the flowers of light are even more beautiful in contrast with the flowers of darkness. This isn't just a geographical chapter, though. It's also a historical chapter. He talks about the natives, number one, the Spaniards, number two, the Americans, number three. Then he sort of references implicitly, without saying it, modern day readers, Steinbeck himself and his readers. Well, the natives, he's doesn't have a lot of good things to say about them, how they're lazy and stupid, basically. Then the Spaniards come and overtake these lazy and stupid people, but the Spaniards are greedy for gold and God. Then the Americans come and are even worse because of their greed. And then finally, he says, there's us, and we have a tendency to forget, and we rarely remember. So Steinbeck himself, the narrator, remembers sharply his childhood, the town, the people in the town, the smells, the natural beauty, but on the balance of it, he says we're more forgetful. We forget that what is going on underneath our feet. What's going on underneath our feet? Layers and layers and layers of human civilization. First, under our ground are Americans, then underneath them are the Spaniards, underneath them are the natives, and underneath them is 20 feet of soil, and underneath that are ancient rivers, ancient forest, and we forget our history, we forget our what's gone before us and the terrible conflicts and the terrible people who've come before us. So he's saying, I think, that we're doomed to repeat it. Now, one thing at the very end of the chapter, an allusion to the Bible that I think is a fitting bookend to the novel, literally a bookend, is he talks about the different ways that the Spaniards and the Americans name things in the Salinas Valley and in all of California. And he says that that is important to him because when you name something, you give it a charge. Now, as far as looking back to a biblical allusion, humans were created to have dominion over creation, to fill the earth and to family the earth. And the way that they were to do that was to have a dominion mandate over creation. And so the very first way they were to carry that out, I believe it's in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 20, is Adam is given the charge of naming the animals. And so a good or a bad animal lives up to its name. And so Steinbeck is laying out for us here what the novel will be all about. What's in a name? Are we doomed to live out our family name, our given first name, our Christian name, or can we transcend? Can we overcome what we've been called, what we've been labeled? Can we transcend a negative name, a negative parentage, a hard childhood? Can good overcome evil?